Travis Wayne Goodsell. I again had another abusive comment by a Mormon on my YouTube channel here. Never side with a person, guys. It's their words that you need to verify. And by their words, you will know them. The fruits of their words, you will know them. And so this Mormon was saying that I'm not credible because somebody else contradicts me. Mormons just will not learn, will you? So, it's clear, as he said, I did not have credentials. I'm not credible. And I keep throwing out there little bits of my own history, hoping somebody will finally put it all together and know my history. Because otherwise, I continue to say, no man knows my history. And if you don't know where that comes from, it's Fawn Brody's book about Joseph Smith. No man knows my history. And she does not know Joseph Smith's history because, again, she too is falling victim to believing somebody's words rather than the fruit of those words. And so ex-Mormons fall for the same trap that Mormons do, picking and choosing the person they want to believe in rather than what people say. So, well, another scenario is that you may have somebody that says a lot of words, but you have to go through all of their words because sometimes they may be wrong on things. When I catch myself being wrong about something, I try to make sure to let you guys know about it and correct myself because I don't like being wrong. I don't like having been fooled by my peers in grade school telling me incorrect information and then I go around spreading it. That kind of sucks because I become the puppet for misinformation. And so nobody wants to be a puppet, do you? So, we'll just go through my life. I only got to the Bronx, and so this is just my influences in the world. This is not my autobiography. That would take forever. So, the influences in my life or the influence I've caused in my life come from it's probably is my experience with Beth. This is the reason why I wear pink. This is why it's my favorite color and has been throughout my childhood because of the experience I had witnessing Beth getting sexually molested by a couple of older boys on our way to school in kindergarten. That is likely the reason why I was interested in women's fashion, clothing fashion, because of the sexual molestation. So, Beth, or not necessarily Beth, but my helplessness in that situation where I just stood in shock. But, yeah. The first time that I became an influence on a large scale was when I was left behind in the mountains. The legend of me now is that I was lost wasn't lost. I knew exactly where I was. I knew exactly where the road was. I just couldn't figure out how to get across the river. It was too dark. I had missed the trail. I was supposed to take a left and go into the forested area, zigzagging through that to get to the parking lot and cross over a bridge. But during the nighttime, I couldn't find it. Even with my flashlight. Did I have? I'm not sure. I may have. Yeah, I did. But I couldn't distinguish which path I was supposed to go to. I couldn't remember. And ended up down by the riverbed on the rocks, and then heard all of the other boys and leaders drive them home. And then heard the father and the son that trailed behind. We were doing a father and son moment. And that was the cause of why I was all by myself. Because I realized I was the third wheel. This is a father and son moment. I need to get away from them. Let them be by themselves. And so I tried catching up to the other guys, which, yeah, they were too far ahead. Yeah, I just went to the right rather than to the left. You know, choose the right, right? And so once I heard the father and son drive away, and realizing they left me behind, they didn't do a head count. They didn't wait for the father and son to make sure everybody made it down the mountain. And so I pulled out my sleeping bag, laid it out on the rocks. So yes, I did sleep on the rocks at the riverbed. And in the morning, I woke up to a bee hovering over my head. So put back over the sleeping bag and went back to sleep for a little bit longer. And woke up again and rolled up the sleeping bag and tried to find the way across the river. When that's when I saw my dad. They had realized when the father and son got to Carl's Jr. that they finally did a head count and went, oh crap. And so they went knocking on my parents' door in the middle of the night. We left your son in the mountains. And so come Sunday morning, I get across the river, and the forest marshal, or forest rangers, is that what they're called? They were all there. They were all ready to start a search that morning. And Dad only had peanut butter. Are you kidding me? My mouth is like sore from not drinking any water, and yeah, I get peanut butter. Oh yeah, that was not good when your throat is sore from dehydration. But the forestry ranger was chewing me out. That was the wrong thing to do. You should never have done that. Yeah, whatever, buddy. So yeah, some decades later, talking with my mom, she said she had contacted somebody back in that area in Southern California. It was the San Bernardino, San Gorgonio mountain ranges when we lived in Corona. Or actually, no, it was when we lived in Placentia. So I was even younger. And the lady said, yeah, the forestry rangers still tell people about the legend of the boy who got lost in the mountains, and warning the hikers to go in pairs and all that stuff. So yes, I'm a legend down there in Southern California. And yeah, when I went to church the next morning to pass the sacrament as a deacon, the other teachers and maybe deacons, I don't remember them being in my class, so they were most likely teachers, as I was among the few deacons. They were all saying, "Oh man, if that was me, I wouldn't have shown up to church. I would have been too humiliated." It never occurred to me to skip church. I'm born and raised in a strict Mormon household. So, yeah, Mormons are so nice and kind and Christ-like, even as kids. So the next influence that was somewhat major was in high school. I think it was sophomore year. Maybe. Could have been junior. I'm pretty sure it wasn't senior. But I was in chemistry, so maybe it was senior when I finally had to take actual course-required classes in order to graduate. So maybe it was my senior year. I had seen an episode of MacGyver where a guy that MacGyver came across was composing music to birds' positions on telephone wires. And so, hey, I'll do that for a science fair project to see if the episode has any basis for it. And it turns out that my chemistry teacher was like very impressed that I would come up with something unique like that, and helped me at the last minute to get it finished. As I tried to stay up all night to finish it, I bought a whole bunch of Mountain Dew, and turns out, as I've received my DNA a few years back, that caffeine has no effect on me. As I've learned anyway throughout my life, yeah, caffeine does not keep me awake. It's actually a sedative, I guess. It helps me sleep. So I may have to deal with a program here in a couple minutes. We'll check to make sure. But so that was another influence. I took first place in my grade, but then took fourth place in the school, and so I missed out on going to regionals. And the reason why I missed out on regionals and only had fourth place was because the judges said, well, if you had a recording of you playing the piano, yeah, well, I just barely finished today. So, yeah, that was never on my mind to actually play the piano and compose the piece. But also as a basketball player in high school, I became very well known throughout the school and popular after an incident where another team player, or not our team, another player on the other team decided to jump me rather than go for the ball. And as I had the ball, was crouched over, he just flew at me to tackle me, and right off and onto the floor where I was still standing. And the coach was all, "Oh, Travis, are you all right? Oh, man, wow. Oh," and you can hear the whole audience go, and yeah, he got a technical foul for that, and got to shoot the free throws, and made the free throws because I had been taught how to shoot a free throw by Coach Lubin. And that was our personal trainer coach, Coach Lubin. I had a beautiful daughter who I think was in the grade ahead of me, but she never came to the basketball courts all the time. And yeah, but she came once, and I was in love. But you can't be in love because she's like Coach Lubin's daughter, and so he was scary enough as it was, because he had the cowboy boots and talked about kicking people, and so nobody messed with him, and thus likewise nobody messed with his daughter. So yeah, but then another thing that made me popular in high school, even though I never really was in the popular crowd, I hung out with it was before computer technology, so they weren't the computer geek nerds. It was the group that was sort of the pre-computer geek nerds. It's not the Revenge of the Nerds. They weren't that. I'm not sure what to describe them as, because there were lots of different cliques in high school based on the type of music you listen to. I sort of set the pattern for, oh, I like all kinds of music. And they said, oh, come on, really? And so they would test me. Oh, do you like that? Oh, yeah, that. And then they also have that song, and so yeah. And so yeah, I set the trend to unite everybody together under one group, so that the country group weren't fighting the metal group, or etc. So, so I was the first to set that trend. Oh, I like all kinds of music. But Tony Fiore, not to be confused with Tony LaBrose from government class. Cinderella story, 300 yards. That's all he did with me. It was just laugh about Caddyshack all through government. Because the teacher just kicked his legs up on the table and showed a movie, and we all just talked amongst ourselves. And then we had to turn in a writing assignment the next day or whatever. So yeah, that was it for government. But Tony Fiore, as I was sitting with the pre-computer nerdish group, he came up to me, and Tony Fiore is the headbanger smoker group, and that's the best way to describe it, I guess. He was at the smokers' place off campus where they would smoke and during lunchtime, and he came up to me among all the other guys and said, "I really respect how you have your high standards and values," and whatever he said. And I'm really impressed that you stick to it rather than giving in to peer pressure. And of course, one of the other guys in my group had to speak out and say, Travis is ruined the moment, but I had an impact on his life. Just the way it was. I wasn't trying to impress anybody. So then the next big thing was probably my mission. Though at Rick's, I just went to the girls' dorms all day. Just hung out, whoever was available, hanging out at their apartment. I hung out, whoever would let me in and hang out with them. And it narrowed down to Stephanie and Trisha and the little redheaded girl, which, having never kissed a girl, and yeah, so we didn't have what's her name, who sang I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. So I didn't know yet. But if you know my other videos where I talk about little redheaded girl, yeah, that's my type. But that doesn't mean I settle. Anyway, and so they became a big part of my life, as a majority of the girls knew and recognized me. And so that first year at Rick's, I was asked out to every dance. Every single dance that came up, I was invited to. And I hadn't learned to say no yet. And so, yeah, and it was fine. Girls are great. But I didn't know what to do. I had to be told by my sister, younger sister, I'm the oldest in the family, had to ask her what to do to take Cynthia Pollard to the homecoming. So yeah, that was stressful. But what was it? Was it homecoming or prom? Could have been prom. So, you know, like the Carrie prom night too. You're gonna laugh at you. That's the original Carrie. But yeah, I was forced to go out of peer pressure on that one, and wanted to ask Carrie Bain, but she had already been asked out by the other Mormon boys, one of the other Mormon boys. And then the other girl also was asked out by Mormon boys. She had a boyfriend, pretty much. I sort of noticed that when I wanted to get to know a girl, soon thereafter she ended up with a boyfriend. And eventually got married, because in the Mormon church you breed them young. And so when Jessica Alba, she did a Penguin video or movie where she was at a zoo of penguins and loved penguins, and then the guy that comes into her life, all women want to do him because they then find the love of their life after doing him. And so I didn't have sex with anybody. It's just I wanted to pursue getting to know them, and then that apparently scared them into going, oh crap, this guy likes me, I better find somebody else. But yeah, it was weird. But yeah, I never skipped a dance because there was always somebody who wanted to date me and ask me out. So tough life. And so then the Bronx. Having gone through my whole mission, I was known as the slacker missionary because I really didn't have any baptisms. I had the Rincon family, which were my only baptisms from start to finish. But I think I was moved out right before they got baptized. Well, because I remember, no, I did go because Stratford bought them a set of scriptures for them, the triple combination, I believe. And so yeah, I remember that much. So yeah, I did go with them from beginning to end. We had to find out that our district leader had poached them from us. And so he had to relent and give them to us. Elder Ames, you might know him from high school, being your DJ. But I hope he's not doing that still. You're a little too old now, Ames. But a lot of experiences with Ames on my mission. Going to Joseph Arntz, who called us, said, "I'm possessed by the devil, help me." And so Ames and I went over to cast out the devil, and Ames didn't want to do it, and so he did the anointing, and then also he was driving when he was taking my companion and I and his companion, and we had a third person in the back seat with us that was with him, and we were going back to their apartment, or the apartment of another set of missionaries, to get them for a district meeting that morning, and witnessed the kidnapping of a woman who could have been a prostitute, or she was about to become one, as she was taken off the street, yanked into a car. We were all yelling at Ames, "Stop the car, stop the car, she's being kidnapped." And Ames freaked out. "Oh, no, we'll call the cops when we get to the apartment. She's being kidnapped now." So we weren't concerned about guns that may pop out if we were to pop out of the cars. But, and then, can't forget Kelvin. In the membership records, all it had was Flamin', and then fire, colored fire from Flamin'. And we're like, we're not quite sure what that means. Is that this new thing that's emerging? Called being happy? Or is there something else? Is he like a golden member or investigator? Well, let's find out. Yeah, he's happy. Lives with a bunch of other happy guys. He invited us over for dinner, and Augustine said, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. So Ames ended up coming with me. And they had a chalkboard in the kitchen, and they had a chalk art of a certain male appendage on there, and they realized, oh crap, and they took it down, thinking that they were taking it down before we would see it. And the other guys that lived there, they were all snuggled up together on the couch and stuff, watching a Sylvester Stallone or maybe a Terminator movie or something like that. And so Kelvin cooked us stuffed cabbage, and couldn't quite figure out the symbolic metaphor, if there was one, for happy guys other than the stuffed part. But it was okay. I'm not a vegetable guy. That's why the Kraft commercial where the boy says, "I'm allergic to all things green." Mother just hilarious. So but that wasn't an influence of mine. That's just reminiscing. The influence I had, though, was because I hadn't really gotten the 200 baptisms a month per companionship as everybody else was in the mission. Everybody. I mean, you can see the stats alone. Okay, 200, 200, 200, 200, 0, 200, 200, 200. Yeah, that sort of sent off alarm bells. Something must be wrong with that companionship. And so, yeah, the APs contacted the zone leader, who contacted the district leader, and the district leader was trying to say, oh, it's just Travis, because it was Ames, I think, at that time. And he's always been in trouble. And Augustine, he's had to go to the mission president over and over again. You guys know about that. Because Travis is letting Mark Augustine do whatever he wants on his mission. That's horrible. Travis should be taking away his agency and leading the way, forcing Mark to do things to get baptism results. So yeah, the zone leaders come bursting in our door. They don't bother to knock. And we didn't bother to lock our doors because the two kids, we were at the top floor, so it would have been below us. The two kids were always climbing in through our windows, and so it's like, what's the point? They're going to come in when they come in. And so, yeah, the zone leader just comes right in. And so, where's your records? Because I'm sitting in the living room area on the couch, reading the Bible, most likely, because I made a thing of, well, okay, I have different companions who different things, and so I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm going to make a goal to read the whole Bible for my mission. So yeah, that's what I was doing a lot of the times. And so where's your records? Where they always are, on the kitchen table. He storms into the kitchen and then goes, whoa, you guys really are doing something. You guys are working. Yeah. I had 3 binders that were this thick, all full of records, and we literally had the genealogy records of the whole town of Newburgh. We'd go to one person and they'd say, oh yeah, have you been to so-and-so? Yeah, they're my cousin, or they're my uncle or my nephew of my mom or whatever. And so, oh, okay. And I'd put it in the notes, every detail. And so the people that told us, you guys just visited us the other month. Oh, well, we're kind of new here. I don't care. You guys need to leave us alone. We don't want you coming around no more. And so, yeah, I'd put it in there. Don't visit them. They don't want to be visited. And so then when I heard about new missionaries coming in after I finally get transferred out, the new missionaries decide to do their own thing because they know better than the records. And so, yeah, when I heard that they were just knocking on doors and then coming back to check the records after they've knocked on the doors, it's like, oh, God. The whole purpose of records is to go to them first. Anyway. So, because of that experience, it got passed up the chain to President Coford that Travis is big on records. He's got these 3 things. They're very detailed. I had architectural blueprints of all the buildings because there's apartments, and many of them were blocked up because President Bush 41, Poppy Bush, which I never knew at first until I learned that the poppy seed is what you make for opioids. And that's why his nickname was such as it was. But yeah, Poppy Bush, when he became president, declared war on drugs, and Newburgh was a test center for it. So yeah, there was originally a Geraldine Ferraro community center. I think I checked not a year, some time ago, and I couldn't find it labeled as Geraldine Ferraro anymore. So I don't know if I even saw it. I think I saw it must have gotten torn down or something, but that's one way to erase her memory. But yeah, the war on drugs caused raid after raid on all the buildings there in Newburgh. And yes, it is a drug town. As we would walk the streets, and I would see these little spaceship capsules. Oh, these are kind of cool. Oh, those are for cocaine, Travis. Oh, yeah, I've already got a whole set of them. You do? Some of them even have cocaine still in them. You do? Okay. Yeah, the park there in Newburgh, often you'd see little capsules. And I had taken one, it was empty, and taped it in my journals, which have now been thrown away by my father and are decomposing, maybe, in the landfill out there in the western mountains. Although I'm sure it's probably a home site now, subdivision home now. So yeah, Cofford called me in, said, "Hey, I hear you're good with records." All right. I have a special assignment for you. Oh, okay. You're getting rid of me, are you? And yeah, he sent me to the Bronx. They had a couple missionaries working that area, trying to get the membership records together to find out who's living in the Bronx and who isn't, because it was a branch, and they were hoping, maybe by finding out who's actually in the Bronx and who's not, that they could have a membership record that they can then see where they're at in regards to making an award. And because after all, month after month after month, 200, 200, 200, 200, 0, 200, 200, 200, 200. And so, yeah, he thought, okay, well, we've been getting 200 after 200 after 200 month after month there in the Bronx. Let's get these records in order to actually see where we're at. And Sean McFarland was my first companion for the first month, and then was it the first month, or was I there for no, it was 2 months. So McFarland was the first month, and then Baxter, who I was missionary companions in the MTC, who came out with me, became my kill companion. And if you didn't see the previous video I did today, it means we went home together. And so McFarland and I went to the branch to go check the membership records, and the branch president wasn't there. The door was locked. It just so happens McFarland brought lock-picking set with him. and picked the lock of the bishop's office. He told the branch president in church on Sunday, because the bishop was like, "Oh man, somebody broke into the office. I didn't see anything taken, but somebody got in." Oh, that was me. I but yeah, McFarland is the one who took me around to all the cathedrals in New York, cathedral after cathedral, just so that he can play the organ. And of course, I'm reading the Bible, so I would sit in the upper rafter where he was playing and read the Bible while he would play the organ. He had a rapport with all of the priests at the various cathedrals, and was even on first name basis with a lot of them. They knew him, and he told me, yeah, I'll come in, I'll play some stuff that they know, and then throw in some Mormon stuff every now and then, because they aren't going to listen to the words. All they hear are the music from the organ. And so, yeah, there's no harm in that as long as there's no words spoken. They don't recognize it as Mormon. And so, yeah, that was awesome. You know, let the companion decide how he wants his mission to be, and it's the greatest mission in the world. It's easy. I hear all these missionaries time and time again talking from their missions, the missionaries that were in the field. Oh, it's so hard. And those who come home, and I'm back at Rick's. Oh, yeah, the mission was so hard, but it was so worth it, man. I'm like, no, that was an easy mission. It was great. It was easy. How many did you baptize? The Rincon family. Oh, yeah, I only was able to do about a dozen on my mission. I hear about others who were baptizing thousands down South America. But the retention rate is horrible. Yeah, because they found out the church isn't going to give them the money that they're hoarding. And so, also in the Bronx, the branch president, despite our having broken into his office, he let us do a whole ton of stuff. And so we were clerks, acting clerks, you can say, and acting counselors, as we would be a part of the meetings for the branch presidency, and counting the tithing money, and he even had us attend the meetings for the building of the Manhattan Temple, the design and planning meetings that I was a part of as well. And so that is an unknown influence that I've had, because within a year of my being home, I found out that the Bronx had split into two branches, because we had found out that we were short by a half a dozen-ish elders in order to make it a full branch. They tried to get the missionaries to look for men to convert and baptize into the church, so that they can turn it into a ward. But woman after woman in the Bronx were more interested in becoming Mormons rather than the men. And so they had to split it into two branches because of the large numbers of women that were joining. And then, yeah, I'm sure you now know that it's two missions now, North and South Mission. That's all because of Cofer and the work that McFarland and I did for the Bronx, and figuring out the membership records, because McFarland and I did it. So it only took us maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3, because we were sort of nonchalantly going about it. It wasn't hard to do. I don't know why the elder couples were having such a hard time, but and so yeah, we had a lot of spare time to go around to the various cathedrals. And Otar, where'd you get those plants? Oh, I got them from work. You stole them? Oh, no. Yes. Otar, bad. Gotta give them back. Okay. But yeah, wow. A plate stacked that high. And boiled eggs, and rice, and the Cajun. Good stuff. I'm not sure who fed us the oxtail, if it was Otar or another family. But yeah, it wasn't until the Bronx when I started getting fed. Oh man. Yeah, I went out and got the money from the bank in Manhattan, across from what now is the Temple, and thought that everything was taken care of. So this was the money I had to budget for the month. And turns out, after 3 months, I get a call from the financial clerk of the mission. Hey, you haven't paid rent for 3 months. Wasn't it taken out? No, your parents didn't set it up for that. What? What? Do you not have that kind of a payment plan? Oh yeah, we can do it that way. Okay. So how do you want to handle the back rent? I guess you gotta take it out of the future checks, because I can't pay it. Okay. And turns out he called my parents and said, hey, your son is several $1,000s behind in rent. How do you want to proceed? What? And so yeah, my parents, especially my dad, thought that I was fooling around on my mission. So yep, sure enough, I wasn't baptizing 200 people a month. And so yeah, he had to pay it, which he was also upset because he had just built a swimming pool and a jacuzzi while I was gone. So yeah, that wasn't the greatest financial news he wanted to hear. And so I didn't get extra money from home like everybody else did. Everybody else did. Are you listening to me? Everybody else did. My parents were strict Mormon. I didn't have a towel in the MTC because it wasn't on the list. So I had to borrow Baxter's extra towel, and then had to buy a cassette player on my mission because the missionary guide packet came with cassette tapes. But a cassette player was not on the list. If it's not on the list, I can't bring it. And so my mom confiscated my pink paisley tie so that I couldn't bring that on my mission. And she says, oh, I'm sure your dad will want it. What do you, huh? I'm coming back. And so yes, pink is not acceptable in my household. And so I had to live in secret because of Beth. And so they even thought I was gay. Unbelievable. My uncle decides he's going to be gay so that he can abandon his family, his Barbie doll wife and his 3 Barbie doll little girls. And so, yes, if Uncle is gay, therefore Travis is gay, because we've never seen him with a woman. Mom, remember when you caught me with the Sears catalog women? Nope. She was too ashamed about that. Reported it to the bishop. Oh, I guess we'll have to discipline you. We'll put you on probation. No sacrament. And then we'll keep interviewing you until... Seriously? Looking back on it, my God. And so, yeah, I sat in the back, didn't sit with the family anymore in sacrament meetings, and then we moved. And so the new bishop didn't bother to tell him, I'm cured. I no longer desire women. But I'm not gay. I mean happy. Because we can't say gay, because that's an evil word. That's a 4-letter word. G-A-Y. 4 letters. So when I came home, the next big influence didn't really happen for a while. It wasn't until I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And I did sort of surprise people when I gave a talk at Rick's in the married ward. They asked us to be the speakers, and I just said Jewish women were hoping that they would be the ones to bear the Christ, the Messiah, who would save the Jews. I didn't think that was news to any Mormon. Turns out it was. So I never spoke again. We're not having Travis speak again. You can't present new information to Mormons, Travis. That's wrong. It was just faith, sir. Yes, that's new. Can't talk about faith. So yeah, when I moved to Utah, deciphered Paleo-Hebrew in February 1997, around 6 months, because it was August when we moved there. So September, October, November, December, January, February, yeah, about 6 months. And so the wife then left. My kids will not learn Hebrew, she said. And parents helped, but my dad thought he'd show me up. He found a computer program that tested your knowledge of Egyptian, and sat me down in front of the computer, because I was now working on Egyptian petroglyph decipherment. And he had taken the test and failed it, and so he thought surely I would fail it too. And so he had put to rest all this researching of ancient languages stuff. He sat me down, hovered over me, and I aced it. And so, yeah, as I have shown and told you guys about, the church, when I came to them, it was actually F. Michael Watson, secretary to Gordon B. Hinckley, until Monson made him put him back in the 70. Got a different guy. F. Michael Watson said, I am authorized to speak on behalf of President Hinckley, and I have contacted his friends at BYU. You mean Farms? You mean Gee and John Tavetness? You mean those guys? who already denounced Joseph Smith as a translator. And they said the traditional Hebrew alphabet is this. I already know the traditional Hebrew alphabet. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, you dumbass. And so, yeah, knowing that the church wasn't interested in any of my decipherment of Paleo-Hebrew and that Joseph Smith was a translator, I then submitted my research to the church, knowing that they were going to do nothing with it, I thought. They'd just file it away in a file cabinet, hopefully. That someday, decades, millennia into the future, some Mormon would find the file cabinet. Oh, wow, this isn't a file cabinet. That's what this book says this is. And oh, what are these things in it? It's got writing. Paper? And then somebody would see it and do something with it. Go, oh, wow, so this is okay. And then, oh, wow, this guy knew something. Why didn't anybody do anything about this? And so that's what I was expecting from that. But nope, sure enough, they filed it all right in what's called a troublemaker file. They don't label it as a troublemaker file. It's kept with the security, filed with them. And so the leaders of the church are notified about it, and then they file it away with security. Troublemaker file. And so, yeah, that's what I found out when in 2008, 10 years later, when I had been abused by bishop after bishop after bishop. I can't get anybody to help me get my kids back, and so I just said I failed in the federal court because Judge Benson dismissed it with prejudice, and so frustrated. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do another lawsuit, but they aren't allowing me to file a lawsuit, so it'll just be a commentary on the Constitution. And submitted it with the governor and the attorney general of the state of Utah, LDS Church, which was the primary focus, is the ones abusing me and not helping, as they are helping her, paying for her house and paying for their living, paying for the divorce, the lawyer, God. And so, and then also the federal courthouse, the Matheson courthouse, the state courthouse as well. And because the federal courthouse was the only one that had a drop box. Stamp it, and there you go. And so the state, the church security surrounded me, ganged up on me, and said, "Oh, we're going to call the cops on you. President Hinckley's never going to see this." Okay, I'm being threatened with my life here. Are you guys going to pull out your guns and shoot me now? And so, yeah, that was a fun time. And so, yes, I was banned from Temple Square for a couple of days. Ooh. And turns out the church decided to sue me. How dare I file a petition of a redress of grievances? And so, yes, the lawsuit consisted of 3 counts of terroristic threat with a weapon of mass destruction. My filing of a petition for a redress of grievances was called a weapon of mass destruction. And I was being charged as a terrorist. And if you hadn't heard about 9/11, the Patriot Act and the subsequent acts that followed, allowing for indefinite detentions of anybody accused of terrorism, you can indefinitely detain a person for the rest of his life, and he will never see the light of day, never go to trial to be found innocent or guilty. So Harold and Kumar go to Guantanamo. I know all about that, but it was right here in the state of Utah. They've got their own system to handle troublemakers against the church. And so, yeah, 6 years. And then people must have forgotten that they were supposed to indefinitely detain me, because people started retiring and the new people coming in were not properly informed about me. And so, I don't know why you're here, Travis. You passed. Really? Did I? Go figure. And here I am. But in that filing, I also put in my latest discoveries, Zeus being Yah in Paleo-Hebrew petroglyphs, and went over the doctrines from the Greek, and yeah, and so the big influence that I have had on the church, which I also need to talk about being a church service missionary. Don't let me forget. I'm likely to forget. While they finally got me locked up and away from society, the church then decided, okay, we don't know how far spread Travis has spread his decipherment that Joseph Smith is a translator. We've got to figure out a way to get the members focused on us. So they came out with the Gospel Topics essays. At least, translation and historicity of the Book of Abraham is from me. It's not written by me, it's about what I approach them with. Joseph is a translator, an actual translator. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, deciphered Egyptian petroglyphs. Church had to put a stop to this. And so the Gospel Topic essays came out, and then the news breaks. Local news covers the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints may only have about 5 million active membership. So yes, all of you who are still listening and who are ex-Mormon, you're welcome. Those Gospel Topic essays proved to be the downfall of the church, as mass exodus occurred. A mass exodus in just the first year of it coming out. Mormons just stopped going to church. There were a number who put in the, I don't want to be a member, take my name off the records. Well, your name never goes off the records. They still keep track of you. It just says whatever it is, records removed. They still know your address, they still know your phone number, they still know your family information, they still know all your previous membership information. It's just the local wards don't. But the main headquarters, they know all about you. Because if you decide to comply and conform to their extortion threats and come back to church, then they know who you are and why you were excommunicated or why you left, so that they can decide whether or not you're trying to trick them or hold compromise over you. So yeah, you never leave the church. But I'm the reason why you left. whether you know it or not. So, church service missionary. Because I had gone all over the place, farms, F. Michael Watson, the president's office, and yeah, he tried to have me excommunicated also. Contacted my singles ward stake president, who had the full stake presidency, the full bishopric, in there in that tight office, and then I'm called in, and I'm in a chair scrunched up, and they're saying, "Who have you told about this? You trying to destroy the church? I saw you didn't take the sacrament 1 week. That means you're guilty of sin." What? What's going on? Well, President Hinckley said that. Did he? Well, we were told that he did. I don't think he's even seen it. What? Yeah, total chaos and pandemonium as all hell breaks loose. And so the stake president calms everybody down. "I'm going to go down to Temple Square and I'm going to meet with President Hinckley face to face and find out what's going on." He never came back to me. It was the first counselor, or second counselor, because the first counselors are the strict, hardcore Mormons, and then the second counselors are the laid-back, casual counselors. So it was the first counselor. I've noticed that pattern. It's very weird. But yeah, I saw him one time in the office, and he said, "Oh, by the way, you can continue your research, but don't go against the church." Am I? I thought I was showing that Joseph Smith was a translator. How am I going against the church? Oh, right, you don't have keys. So I am going against the church, just not against Joseph's church. I thought he was our founder. So yeah, none of that was learned until not too long ago, back in 2017. So, yeah. So, having gone around, I'd even found the priesthood curriculum department, or the church curriculum department back then. It's now the priesthood department, priesthood curriculum, unless they've changed it again. But reached out to him, said, "Hey, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Well, we really don't do that kind of thing." All right. I did have at one time John Gee's father, which I think is also John Gee, who was an actual Egyptologist, where John Gee Jr. But he was asked by the curriculum department back when they were doing the original footnoting of the scriptures with the Topical Guide and Bible Dictionary. He was asked to submit something about the Book of Abraham to see if they can use anything with what they were doing. And no. He made it too complicated. But I had gotten a hold of that document that he had given them through a CES instructor up in Canada. An institute instructor. And so that was my first influence into actual Egyptian stuff outside of the Book of Abraham. Turns out, in retrospect, I can still remember a lot of stuff he talked about, and yeah, it was very incomplete. He's not as great as people think he is, especially his son. Although his son probably thinks he's now better than the master. Okay, John, whatever you say. And so the guy, the supervisor at the curriculum department, showed up at my work at Beehive Clothing at the time, and walked into the warehouse, and I'm going, "Oh, hi." And I'm sort of kind of straight-laced, as people are kind of strict on things, but it's the church. I guess everybody can do whatever they want. Go wherever they want. And so the awkwardness sort of left as I wasn't too concerned about not still working. Get back to work, Travis! Whoosh! But yeah, he gave me the forms to fill out to apply, because he has to request it. I can't request it myself. It has to be him who chooses me. And so he chose me and gave me the forms, and then said, because you're divorced, it has to be given to President Hinckley for his approval. And turns out President Hinckley not only approved, he was greatly excited to have me. So yes, that whole incident with the stake president and F. Michael Watson gave hope to President Hinckley, but then he died and Monson took over, and yeah, lawsuit ensued. So I guess Monson was not kept in the loop or didn't believe it. So yes, and I had a dream while locked up in solitary confinement first of President Hinckley and his wife wanting to attend an event that they didn't have tickets for. And I had 2 tickets, but I didn't have a date. It was just me, and I had 2 tickets. And so he said, hey, can I have those tickets? Okay. Here's my key to my office. Okay, thanks. They went on and into the event, and it was a formal event. They were in like tuxedo and fancy dress, not just a regular suit and dress. And so yeah, the rest of the dream ensued. And so I was a part of the project that worked on the 2009 editions of the foreign language scriptures, with the revision of the footnotes to conform with the guide to the scriptures rather than having a topical guide and Bible dictionary. They decided to improve upon it for the foreign language editions of the quad. And so I was a part of the main group, because when I started, I was just a regular person like everybody else who was working on it, and they realized they needed to go faster. They realized I was going faster than everybody, and not only that, I was making changes beyond what they wanted me to do, and they kept trying to say, you don't need to do this, just take out the topical guide and Bible dictionaries and find a guide to the scriptures if applicable. There's too many errors in the first edition, as I had already gone through all the footnotes as I'm reading the Bible as well on my mission, checking out footnote references. And so yes, I know all about many of the errors. Why did you cross-reference this? There's nothing here. I can't even find the word here now. Other times oh, here's the word. Okay, but the meaning is completely different, etc., etc. So many problems. And yeah, so for me, having read the whole scriptures, not just the Bible, I have an ability to remember where the scripture's subject matter is, just like scripture mastery, but beyond scripture mastery scriptures, other scriptures as well. And because I annotated as I went through it, and that somehow helped me remember where things were. And so yes, I can remember, oh, it's on this part of the page in this book, and yeah, I'm very quick at finding things that way. And so even though I had a computer program like I sort of have now, this is the public version, I had the beta version, which included Hebrew and Greek for it as well. And yeah, there's some errors. But that's what you get for having BYU students do it rather than the instructors in those Greek and biblical Hebrew classes. They get all the credit as the students do all the work. God. But, okay, hold on. And so, what happened is that they started going through the changes that I was making and realizing, oh wow, this actually does improve the footnotes. They couldn't do it for English because there's a certain person still left who's not dead yet. And I won't mention Ballard's name. Who was a part of that project. But there were certain passages that we were not allowed to correct, even though they were in desperate need of correcting. Bruce is another example, even though he had passed on by then. There were just certain forbidden zones. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that I had recommended changing had been rejected simply because of that policy. The other policy is they use Section 107 in regards to the need to have everybody agreeing. If there's one dissenter, then nothing gets done. And David, yeah. And so David, no, Sodom was destroyed because of homosexuality. No, David, Ezekiel says it's because the rich did not take care of the poor. No, homosexuality. David, it's right here in Scripture. Remember, we can only reference Scripture. We can't create our own interpretations. It's homosexuality. David? So yes, it's still homosexuality. But I think there's another passage that does refer to it, but it's yeah, there's problems. It's not easy to figure out. But homosexuality, TG, homosexuality, yeah. But Guide to the Scriptures, I think it's GED, GES, whatever it is, for Spanish. Dear God. And so, yeah. But otherwise, I did the video where I went over the Guide to the Scriptures in Spanish and found that they did have one of my recommendations in there about the cornerstone becoming the capstone, but they didn't put in Hebrew cornerstone, Hebrew capstone. They didn't want to do that. They said, oh, well, we already have people assigned to the Hebrew, Travis. But this needs to be changed. We already have, yeah. So they didn't do it. And my recommendation didn't get accepted, therefore. And so, yeah. But my reference did. Because Matthew does not reference the prophet of whom spoke that. It's Psalm, guys. Psalm 118, wasn't it? So, yeah, they did put that in. So, yeah, the main scriptures that we worked on were the big ones. Genesis, Isaiah, and Jeremiah. We did Amos, and Malachi, and Matthew, and I think we also had John, but the other BYU group got Luke. and Mark. Can't remember. And we didn't get Revelation. So, yeah, they didn't accept my suggestion to put Egyptian in the footnotes. I knew they didn't have an Egyptian crew, but nope, they didn't want to have Egyptian, Peter, seer. It's in the Joseph Smith translation even. Nope, didn't want to do it. And then there's Mary, Egyptian, Mary, love. Nope, didn't want to do it. So, yeah, unbelievable. All right, so that's the influence that I've had in your lives, and you didn't know about it. And as you can tell, I've affected the majority of the church. I have had an impact with a 1 degree of separation with pretty much all of you. 2 degree for the few who may not be a 1 degree. But, yeah, I still gotta get the other stats here. And so, yeah, I've been a direct influence in every one of your lives. And it took 1 hour and 22 minutes to tell you that. And so I'll probably make it something like that for the title.